Brothers, we are living in a time of profound darkness where you have people that are actively encouraging criminality, degeneracy, all manner of harm to people. And we see it all the time. For my lifetime, people have called Chicago Chirac. And it's always perplexed me. Why doesn't anyone do anything about it? Politicians talk about it. The people who live there don't do anything about it. The people in the surrounding area don't do anything about it. No one does anything about it. They just keep electing the same sort of corrupt Democrat politicians that make the problem worse. And then there's high crime, and then you've got all of these people blaming Republicans and everyone else. And I'm just looking at this going, you have these people on the left that are so evil and so numb to the suffering of others because it enriches themselves and empowers themselves to keep these people suffering. It does. They can use it as a campaign slogan every election. But over the weekend, over Labor Day weekend, there was 54 shots fired out in Chicago. 54. That number should be 0. And Democrats are too busy fighting against Trump, arguing against Trump. The mayor of Chicago actually went out and said, we will fight Donald Trump and the National Guard. These people on the left are actually out there saying that we will fight for criminality. We will fight to keep our criminality. That is insane. If you are a political party and your message is we are on the side of the illegal criminal alien, we are on the side of the people that are breaking the law, if you are somebody who is on the side of those who are breaking the social contract and breaking our social order, you are an enemy of the state. I don't know where we got this idea that we have to live like this. We don't have to live like this. If there's a mayor and he's saying, we're going to fight the federal government because the federal government wants to help lower crime, that person should be dragged out of his house publicly, and that person should be put on trial, and that person should be sent to work in a prison colony. A prison colony where you can put people to work for the good of the country. I am so sick of this bullshit. We have had to endure all manner of nonsense. This argument about burning the flag, it is a microcosm of this. You think that my grandfather went and fought and defeated the Nazis, helped defeat the Nazis so that people could come and piss on our flag and burn it in the streets? No, absolutely not. That is not the sign of a free society, by the way, if you can burn the flag in public. That is fucking retarded. If you are starting a fire in public, you do not live in a free society. You live in a hellscape. Anyone who starts a fire in public that isn't for the sake of keeping warm and in an isolated area and in a fire pit that's not going to bother people, that is not a free society. You are living through tyranny. We have people in positions of power that are so corrupt and so evil and so malevolent. I don't understand why no one does anything about it. Why no one runs against these people on a common sense platform and actually means it. Why there isn't a grassroots movement to get those people projected into positions of power. I don't know why it is we have to continue to accept living in this lawlessness. You don't have to accept it. Democrats tell you that you do, but it's not true. You don't have to accept their insanity. You can reject every part of their narrative. You don't have to accept a single part of it because none of it is actually true. You don't have to well, you're in the city, so you have to expect a certain level of crime. No, you don't. You go to Japan and you see that, well, their places are clean, their subways are clean, people are respectful, it's orderly. So no, I reject this in its entirety. And I think one of the problems is that we don't put criminals away, whether it be in an insane asylum or whether it be in a jail cell. We need to start getting more serious about punishment and recognizing that the people that are advocating for putting criminals on the street, the people that are saying that we need to abolish the police, those people also need to be rounded up and put into jail or a padded cell because they are a danger to society. Innocent people suffer as a result of the type of policies that these people never have to deal with. These people never have to deal with the consequences of your good intentions, but your loved ones will. Your loved ones will be the recipient of all of the brutality and violence and criminality that these pasty, white, affluent liberals, or they're not really affluent themselves, their parents are affluent, they will never face the consequences of their so-called morality. But you and your family will. So my solution is to take these people and round them the fuck up, get them the hell out of civil society, put them in a prison colony for workers, have them start producing products for the whole so that we can keep our content relatively cheap and so we don't have to outsource to China. Now, I know a lot of people will disagree with that, but I don't give a shit. We are in emergency times here. We are in emergency times. The left has done irreparable damage to this country over the 10 years of Obama and the 4 years of Biden. Democrats have been one of the greatest threats, especially Karens, to this country. It's been bigger than anything anyone has ever seen.
Here, Mayor Johnson, Governor Pritzker, they're failing the people of Chicago, and their lives are not safe and secure. Violent crime is out of control across the city and the state. Again, 8 people dead. They should be alive. 58 people shot. They shouldn't be in a hospital. These were preventable. But instead, 8 funerals are now being planned while dozens more are dealing with gunshot wounds. And still, the state's liberal politicians are so blinded by rage for President Trump, they're refusing to keep their own residents safe. Our very own Nicole Parker was in Chicago today, speaking to the people in that city. Let's see what they had to say.
What do you think about President Trump? He's offered to provide assistance to help make Chicago safe, to bring in potential National Guard, potential, federal law enforcement officers and agencies to give help to Chicago. How do you feel about getting help to make your city safe?
Help is needed.
How do you feel? Do you think that protecting and making Chicago safe, should that be a political issue?
I think Chicago can take all the help we need. So if it turns into a political issue, then tomato. If it works for the environment, for the safety of, the people, then I'm with it. Yeah.
National Guard coming here is not going to stop anything.
I think it's a good idea because, look, we need more.
I do think it's interesting they threw that in there. Yeah, the National Guard isn't going to stop anything. Really? Let me just explain this to you. Bringing in the National Guard is what we call a show of force. So this guy may say, well, in terms of, the day-to-day, people will still be shot. But when criminals see that there are patrols of vehicles and personnel on the street, they'll say, okay, guys, we got to tamp down on this. We can't really go as crazy as we normally would. Maybe we'll pull back, maybe we won't rob as much. And it may be that in the first couple nights that, people go, oh, yeah, it's not a big deal because they hear on the media that, well, Trump is ineffective, this isn't going to work. But I'll tell you what, there is nothing more effective than word of mouth. And when you've got Jamal and his friend Jimmy, little Jimmy, and they go with Tyrese to go rob the local gas station and they want to break in the ATM, and they go do it, and 6 or 7 of these, rough, tough law enforcement officers, these people from, the National Guard, they come in And man, little Jimmy and Tyrese, and Jamal, they've got to call Laquanda and say, Laquanda, man, we got picked up. We got, as they say. So the word of mouth is spreading that, oh my God, like people are actually being arrested for these crimes. And that will spread. That is the quickest deterrent when you actually start arresting people and the cops start tamping down and you start seeing these videos come out and they're like, damn, man. Ah, that was Jamil. Oh, man, look at the cop. Oh, look at him take him. Oh, look at him sweep. Man, he's in the air. Oh, he took him down. Oh, man. And Jamal's on the video going, oh my God. I think you broke my wrist. Oh God, I'm in so much pain. Like that going around, that absolutely will act as a deterrent. And then the next time, Joaquin, that's a Hispanic name, but you know what? We are completely and totally diverse here. There can be somebody who's black with a Hispanic name. That's not cultural appropriation at all. So Joaquin can be looking at these videos and stuff and go, you know what? Maybe I'm not gonna go and rob that liquor store. I'm not gonna go rob that gas station. Maybe I'm just gonna stay home. And that's what a deterrent is. It's a show of force. So the reason these criminals do that is because they think that they can get away with it because they've been able to get away with it. And once you show, no, you're not going to be able to get away with it. And by the way, the punishment is going to be severe for even trying. Yeah, these people are not going to do it. They're just not. It's called the deterrent. It's called the show of force. So it will work. And especially if you, in your community, if you see that there's a national conversation around the show of force in your area and you see that everyone is, basically out there commenting on every little crime, you don't want to be the one that ends up with your face on the news. You just don't. Even though some people may say, I like the attention, it's cool. You don't want to be the one. You don't want to be the one black guy who is like, oh, I'm going to be super cool. I'm going to rob this place. And then, a bunch of burly, federal agents come in, National Guard agents, and they come and they slam you down and you end up crying on camera in front of all your homies. You're just, oh God, oh, I didn't do nothing. And then they're picking you up and your pants are falling down. Look, there are a lot of ways that this is absolutely a deterrent. And I think that the National Guard, I think that they would be a breath of fresh air. And I think that crime would drop drastically.
I mean, what's wrong with more help?
Right? Let me explain something. When you step outside your apartment or your house, you're in a war zone. You don't have to be in Iraq and Afghanistan. And if you think I'm lying, let's check out the news every day.
He's only going.
That's the same guy that said that the National Guard wouldn't help. But then he's like, well, you walk outside and it's a war zone. I think that's the same guy. I do. I think that's the same dude. It's like, brother, you don't have to live this way. You don't. Now, some people would say, well, Tactical Templar, you're a racist. Maybe partially true. Everyone's got a little bit of racism in them, but I'm more racist towards criminals rather than any particular race of people. I want America to be a trust-based, honor-based society. I want us to be a Christian nation. And so I'm more discriminating towards people who commit crimes rather than people of a certain, ethnic persuasion. But the reality is that wouldn't you want the help if Trump is offering it? Wouldn't you want these places to be safer? Like, it would make all the sense in the world to me. You want the places to be safer. Now, David Pakman and Legal Eagle and all these other places, they'll make videos saying, well, you don't need the National Guard. Trump can't send in the National Guard. And they'll caterwaul at this because, well, first of all, it's their bread and butter. It's what their audience loves. Nimbious white liberals in their gated communities, they love playing this game of, I'm going to speak for the black man. I'm going to speak for the minority. And all the while they're like, well, I'm perfectly safe. I don't have to deal with the consequences of this. Should we DoorDash like Starbucks and get something to eat? Like, yeah, these people will pay $10 for a DoorDash Starbucks. Yeah, I'm not kidding you. And by the way, $10 is cheap for them. Sometimes it's like $12 for like a Starbucks drink, and they'll pay it. Meanwhile, normal people can't pay $12 for a fucking Starbucks delivered through DoorDash. Some people actually have to engage in the real world, and it would be better for them if there wasn't this high level of criminality and that criminals were actually the ones that were afraid. Because I'll tell you what happens. If it gets bad enough, you're going to get some vigilantes. And you don't want vigilantes. You don't want what comes from vigilantism. You want law enforcement to do their job. You want your politicians to do their job. You want law enforcement to do their job and arrest criminals. And you want prosecutors to prosecute these people to the fullest extent of the law. But I think that in a lot of these places, everything is so corrupt and so broken, especially in Chicago, and no one's doing anything. I don't understand why. I don't understand why people don't go in there, even though they know that there's a problem, and do something about it. It's crazy.
To Chicago and every state that is a Democratic state. Tell me why.
But you think that President Trump could step in and help?
Yeah, I'm thinking, yeah. I mean, I don't see no harm in that.
Nicole Parker's with us now. All right, so you spoke to the people in Chicago. I find it hard to believe that you can predict on any given weekend how many people will be shot. You can predict on any given weekend how many people will be shot and killed. I'm surprised it's not a 100% issue, to be honest. What were they telling you today?
Well, I was in the south side of Chicago, and I can tell you that the vast majority of them, initially it was automatic. Hey, you know what? I just don't think that this should be a political issue. I don't want President Trump coming in here. But then when we got into actually what that would look like for their city, the one commonality across every person that I spoke to, Sean, they admit that crime is completely out of control. And they are sick and tired of the crisis in their city. And they want to be able to walk around and be free and not be concerned about getting shot and getting killed and just the devastation that it's causing over and over. And also they admit that their mayor and their governor have failed them. They are not satisfied with what is happening. They do not believe that they will create the solutions necessary. And so in further discussions, almost every single person came around and said, you know what, you're right. This really isn't about politics. And if Trump can help us, let's allow them to come in. We need all the help that we can get because we are not in a good spot right now. And so it was very interesting to see how when you take the politics out of it, this is not about politics. This is about keeping everyone safe, keeping everyone alive. And there was one particular resident that I spoke to, Sean, he spoke about how he actually had to protect children himself from, live gunfire and from flying bullets. And this is what he said.
Being that we're over here, right, in the hood, right, you see all these people walking through here, right? I've been here when actual bullets get to shooting, right? There was a bullet that went right in there, a bullet over there, and I had to grab a kid and hold him down, right? And just to cover him to make sure that he wasn't, hit by the bullets. So it's not about who's right or who's wrong, but it is about saving, these youth at this point.
And that's exactly what it's about, Sean. I mean, I was walking through these neighborhoods and seeing these young children. I mean, they are victims of crime. No one deserves this, let alone young children who.
And that's my point. It's like by allowing the corruption in Chicago and other Democrat cities, by not doing anything about it, you are putting innocents at risk. And that's my main point here. There are children, there are adults, people that have to suffer through this and have to live in this world. And so my thing is, I don't understand why we have zero arrests for these people. What these Democrats have done to this country is criminal. It is unacceptable. The innocents who have suffered as a result of lawless Democrat policies, reckless, dangerous, quote unquote, empathy and compassion, it is absolutely egregious. It is disgusting. And so my thing is, Why would you not? Why would you not send in people that can help? Why would you not arrest these people who are making the situation far, far worse? It's just that is my opinion on this.
We could
It's so crazy.
straighten out Chicago. All they have to do is ask us to go into Chicago if we don't have the support of some of these politicians. But I'll tell you who is supporting us, the people of Chicago.
So President Trump says the people of Chicago support his plan to send in the National Guard and others, despite city leaders rejecting the idea. Our next guest knows the city's crime crisis all too well. 5 years ago, her daughter, Jaya, was shot and killed while at a convenience store. Naisha Beeman joins us now.
And I mean, these Democrats are so disgusting, subhuman, just demonic. You know, this guy, this clown, the Chicago mayor was blaming all this on guns, trying to blame. Well, you know, these people can get guns. These criminals can get guns from other states, and that's why we need to crack down on guns. No, we don't. Shut the fuck up. You belong in a cell. You belong in a jail cell for the rest of your miserable, corrupt, pathetic life. Absolutely. By the way, if you want to know, I think we should bring back prison colonies. You can have these isolated areas of land where people who are arrested can be put to work for the good of the country. And that way it'll help keep costs low. So instead of just, you know, people who are criminals just sitting around all day, here's yard time. No, they don't have time to worry about racism and gangs and violence and shanking people. No, they'd be too tired from working to, you know, pay off their debt to the country. And it could be manual labor. It could be mining operations. You know, you teach somebody to do a job and, you know, they have to do that job. It could be assembling computer boards. It could be something where, you know, you have to learn a task. And if you don't do it right, you get punished, you know. But, yeah, I think that prisons should change. They should be turned into ways to have people contribute back rather than just spending your time after committing a crime in this one place. No, you should have to give back. And that'll help keep our products low. You know? Help keep our products low. Help keep things affordable. Be a deterrent against criminals, you know, because they don't want to go into prison and have to do manual labor in a work colony. Man, it's hard to do that. But I mean, this young lady lost her life because Democrats were weak on crime. And they didn't care enough to make any sort of changes. Any sort of changes that matter. All their changes basically predicates on, well, we need more power and we need to take more of your rights away. No, you need to enforce the law. That's what you need to do. You need to enforce the law. The problem is that you people, what do you mean you people? You people in Chicago and in New York and in LA, you don't uphold the law. You allow criminals to run roughshod because you yourselves are criminals. You are lawless people. And so Democrats are pro-crime. And that needs to be done away with.
Naisha, first off, sorry for your loss. And can you give me your thoughts, first off, on what the president said? If the governor asks, I'd like to help. If he doesn't, it's going to make it difficult. What would you like the governor to do?
I would like the governor to ask for help because the things that's in place right now is not working. Labor Day weekend was a 77% increase in violence since last year. Over 72%, yeah. It was 58 shootings, I think 8 fatalities, and it's not working.
So they hit us with some stats, and they said this has been the safest summer since the 1960s, 123 homicides, 278 total homicides through August 31st for the year. And it's horrible, but not compared to other past summers. They said it's down 23%. What's your answer to those stats?
I I don't feel safer with those sets. We don't feel safe.
Nor should she. Like, when Democrats say, well, crime is down 23%, understand, that's not good enough. Well, see, crime went down a bit. No. These are still real numbers. These are still real victims. The numbers should be as close to zero as possible. And the ones that get by, the ones that actually do end up shooting, the consequence and the punishment should be so severe that it sends a ripple throughout the criminal community.
Safer, we scared to sit in our cars. We scared to have our kids walking to school. I don't feel safer with those stats.
How often do you see police officers in your neighborhood?
I don't. I think we need like beat cops walking the streets instead of just riding past. I don't see cops often, not at all.
So could you tell me what happened to your daughter?
My daughter was 18, still a child. I know the law says that she was grown, but she was still a bubbly teenager. She left the Shed Aquarium with the afternoon with a friend, went to the neighborhood store, convenience store, to get snacks, and 3 individuals shot blindly in the store, killing her and wounding 4 others.
Did you ever find out who the killer was?
Well, it was 3 of them. One of them was 15, and he got a slap on the wrist. The other 2, they didn't charge. And that's the norm here. You get a 15-year-old to do the dirty work, and he don't get that much time, so he's not going to tell who's involved. So that's how it goes.
Man, that is so heartbreaking. That is so heartbreaking. And I got to say this. The reason that we have a criminal justice system, the reason that we have this is because back in the old day, there was something known as blood feuds. I'm sure many of you are familiar with it, but there was there were these family squabbles where you kill one of ours, we kill 2 of yours, and basically on and on and on. Sort of thing like an eye for an eye. The reason that we have the justice system is because the government is supposed to be impartial, but they're supposed to mete out justice so that the family doesn't have to. What we've seen continuously is that the government, as it has been infiltrated by these social justice activists, and as they have put as their most important philosophy, this idea that, well, social justice, the justice overall for all of this one race, is more important than the individual justice. You've gotten situations like this. I mean, a 15-year-old, this guy should have gone to jail forever. I mean, you kill somebody, you end their life. That is absolutely horrific. And this girl deserves justice, and the people in the car that were with them deserve to go to jail as well. Every one of those people need to go to the prison colony. They need to go and they need to work off their debt to this woman and society. And until you go in there and what I would do, honestly, to set an example, if I were emperor for a day, if I were emperor for the rest of my life, I would say, okay, we are changing not the laws, we're changing the sentencing. And we're changing the way that prosecution is done. If you kill somebody, you will be killed yourself. And it's going to be an expedited process, and it's not going to cost us much money. The family is ultimately going to be able to determine your cause of death. So if you shoot and kill somebody, the family, when you are found guilty, is going to be the one that's going to be able to determine your cause of death. So whether that be through, gasoline and emulation, whether that be through a gas chamber, whether that be through crucifixion, whatever it is. And you know what would happen? Almost immediately, this shit would stop. Because I'm not talking about the government just going in there and randomly executing people. I'm talking about having a trial. And then when people see, like, okay, the sentencing for this, you killed somebody, so you're going to die. Now we're going to bring in the family, and I would have this televised where the family would be able to determine what punishment you want to deliver to this person. And if it is that a father who lost his daughter determines, you know what, I just want to beat this guy with a baseball bat. You know what, we're going to record that. We're going to stream that. We're going to put that on the internet, on a government website. We're going to show these are the consequences of your actions. And if that father beat that guy to death who killed his daughter, I think that that would be perfectly legal under the law, because you need to set an example, because it's absolutely unconscionable that this young girl lost her life, that she's no longer with us. This mother has to go the rest of her life without this kid. Now, I know that people say, well, you know, maybe the family wasn't perfect or whatever, but it doesn't matter. This girl lost her life, and the people who did it didn't get justice. And that encourages people to go on and do other things. If you're 15 years old in this country and you see videos from the government saying, okay, well, if you are found guilty of this crime, you're not just going to get a slap on the wrist. You're going to get the maximum ultimate punishment. You are going to pay the ultimate price for that, because you have snuffed out somebody's precious life. I think that that is the only way to properly set a standard. You have to, because of how broken things are, you have to set the strictest standard possible for a while. Not always. It doesn't mean that you always do that. But in certain areas, for a certain period of time, you need to go full authoritarian draconian in order to get crime under control. And I mean really under control. Not padded number. Oh, we're down 26%. It's like, are you really? Maybe you're just not reporting the crimes. Maybe you're classifying things as this, and really they're this. But the reality is, do people feel safe there? And when they ask people, the answer is no. The only people that want to talk about how safe these blue cities are people like Legal Eagle, who go to the zoo in the middle of the day and go, well, guys, there's no crime here. Okay, that's it. I'm done. I'm going back to my gated community. It's like, it's so egregious. It's so egregious.
To discuss this, we're joined by two Chicago residents, Christian Maxwell, who's also running for Congress, and Pastor Corey Brooks. He's the CEO of Project Hood. Pastor Brooks, great to see you.
Thank you.
So over the weekend, Mayor Johnson was working hard to keep your city safe by signing a totally meaningless executive order to affirm that they will not work with the National Guard if deployed to Chicago. Your response, knowing these horrific numbers of violent crimes over the weekend?
Well, it's disheartening, especially when we keep these numbers still rising, still going up. We're still dealing with the violence every single day in the city of Chicago. It's something that we definitely need to do something about. The polls are showing that people in Chicago are favoring the National Guard coming in, and we don't believe it's a permanent solution. We know it's a temporary solution, but we need to get a hold of the crime. We need to calm down the violence so that organizations like ours and other non-for-profits can do the work that needs to be done. But we definitely need to bring in the National Guard without a doubt.
Well, you were standing just a couple of weeks ago over a victim of this horrific violence. Very briefly, tell us.
So my godson died, was shot and killed about a year ago. And they just brought that individual who committed that crime up on charges just a few weeks ago. Also, people in my neighborhood, a young man was shot and killed, and we had to have his funeral. We're always doing this. This is something that we continue to do. That's one of the reasons why I'm walking across America, to try to talk about the solutions, to bring hope to places where there are a lot of despair. As you said, there's violence that are going on in all of our major cities, and we have to do something about it. And so we have to take a stand, and unfortunately, we have to bring in the National Guard when necessary.
Parents plus police power. Parents
sure.
and police power. Christian, here's a message from your state attorney general. Watch.
If President Trump were talking about putting more resources into federal law enforcement agencies that already collaborate with local law enforcement, I would applaud it. If he said, hey, I'm going to fully fund those programs.
Yeah, so basically we want more money. That really is what it is. When you listen to these people in positions of power over here, and by the way, they're all black. they're all black. You would think, okay, well, black people are the majority in Chicago and they have black representation. That makes perfect sense. So they would be more amenable to helping the black population. Wrong. They don't give a shit about anyone or anything but themselves. These people are so selfish. These people in positions of power, these Democrats, don't care about your suffering. They're begging for more money. That's literally what they're doing. Well, if Trump would just give us more money, we would take more money. We just don't want actual help. That's outrageous. No, we're not giving you a dime more. You have failed in every conceivable way. If it were up to me, I would have all of you rounded up and put in jail. You'd spend the rest of your life working in a prison camp, working to make products and deliver services to the American people. You would definitely be giving back to your communities. You would definitely be giving back. Finally, you would be people that were giving back to your own communities. You'd be working to make your communities better instead of whatever you're doing now, which is to make everything worse.
I'm going to fully fund community violence interruption.
Christian, we heard a lot about this today with Pritzker and Brandon Johnson. They do all these cutbacks. But tell us about these violence interruption programs that he's touting.
So I think the concept of the violence interruption programs is great in theory, and when executed by people who are incredibly, ethical, it really does work. But what we're seeing is that the violence interrupters, for one, there was one notable one, Dennis Green, who was actually gunned down in Inglewood last year. And he was gunned down trying to do his work. So you also have the issue of, at the end of the day, with the violence interruption programs, they work for people who are ready to receive that effort. A lot of the criminality that we see in Illinois and in Chicago right now, it is not responsive to the efforts of, hey, let's work together to see how we can better this community. We really do need to have a really strong effort to drive out some of the worst and then work with the people who are either emerging or in positions where, they're being exposed to violent behaviors and they can turn back. But just making the assumption that a violence interruption program is going to shift the entire tide and that's all we need, along with affordable housing, it really just, it's like laughing in the face of the elderly who are locked in their homes and scared to walk down the block.
Well,
those people need help right now.
Yeah, they keep telling people you shouldn't perceive yourself to be unsafe, basically. But your feeling of being unsafe is illegitimate. And my question to you, Christian, is do you believe that Mayor Johnson wants the city to be safe? And do you believe that he has the ability to make the city safe?
I think that he honestly wants to keep the violence interruption programs funded. I think that's his top concern, keeping not-for-profits funded as opposed to actually doing the work of stopping the crime. If he stops the crime, what is the need for all of those not-for-profits that are cashing checks and paying salaries in the city
Bingo.
For these programs?
Yeah, Pastor Brooks, as someone who works in the not-for-profit community, you've seen this money get blown year after year after year, hundreds of millions of dollars, flooding Chicago and other cities, St. Louis, Oakland, Baltimore. What do they have to show for it?
Yeah, it's unfortunate that we have organizations that do not properly spend. Just like every profession, there are individuals who don't do the work, media personalities, politicians, but there are individuals in the not-for-profit sector like Project Hood, Activists, Metropolitan Family Services, who are doing the work on the streets. So what I'm saying is, yes, we do need the National Guard, but we also need some of these organizations that are doing the work. But there's no doubt about it, there are a lot of organizations that are not handling their funds properly.
Right now, Christian, when you look at the landscape, the political landscape in all of these major cities, even in red states, Houston, Dallas, in Tennessee with Memphis, these are liberal-run cities. They're all run by liberals. But when people actually say, okay, what about having a larger police presence? Why not get tough on criminals? Why not remove the illegal aliens? Oh, no, you can't do that. Oh, no, that's heavy-handed. You can't do that. Donald Trump's trying to invade us. That's an interesting concept for a president of the United States. But what do you make of that, given what we know and we've seen repeatedly actually works on the streets? And again, in partnership with real parents, which is another problem we have.
I think that a lot of liberals really struggle with understanding a multi-pronged approach. To what Pastor Corey Brooks was saying, when you have really ethical leaders like himself that are actually doing the real work and have fruit to show for their efforts from their not-for-profits, by all means, go forth and support those programs. But for liberals, they only want to do a one-size-fits approach for everything, and you need to have a combination. You do need to have parents who are supported. You need to have strong law enforcement, and you need to have a law enforcement team that is literally aligned with the amount of population they have to police. Right now, Chicago is down, I think, about 3,000 officers. Why are we down 3,000 officers with crime at the same amount? There was the same amount of homicides this year as in 2018.
Well, it's a
crime is not down.
No, it's shocking. It's shocking that people wouldn't sign up to be law enforcement under formerly Lori Lightfoot and Brandon Johnson.
They're
Pritzker.
not encouraged.
They don't want to do it. Why should they put their lives on the line if they're going to get treated as they get treated? And they're handcuffed and the criminals go free. Christian, Pastor Brooks, both of you, thank you so much.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey,
Yeah,
click here.
it's just so fascinating. This whole topic, it's very interesting because you have a problem, but the people that are in positions of power that were elected to fix the problem, and by the way, I mean, these are the same people that, elected Lori Lightfoot and now elected this guy. I mean, yeah, it seems like the black community is extremely racist. They want somebody that looks like them rather than somebody that espouses something that might actually fix the problem. But if I could give any advice to the black community, clearly electing people based on race isn't working. So maybe try something different. Maybe hiring people for the job that are competent and not corrupt. That would be a nice change of pace, wouldn't it? Now, ideally for you, you'd pick somebody that was your same skin color and had the right politics. But it just doesn't seem like Chicago has a good track record across the board. But anyway, this entire story is just bizarre. It's like, why would you not accept help unless you want crime? Unless you want criminality, you just hate Trump that much? Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for watching. I want to thank you for supporting the channel, and I'll see you next time.